what brought us to her door was she's creating content in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. And she's going there as a light-haired, light-skinned, light-eyed woman and talking about improving women's and girls' lives and challenging cultural, religious, and conflict conditions with men in their huts.
Members of the Taliban.
I don't know if they're members of the Taliban, but she's going around in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, and they're treating her very well. That was the shocking thing for me.
Very respectfully, very polite,
respectful.
a lot of courtesy. Would you like to join us for a meal? Here's some tea.
One guy invited to host her overnight and kill a goat in her honor. I mean, just some of the best hospitality we've ever seen. And it's in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm a boomer.
And my name is Michelle, and I'm a millennial. And together, we're the Boomer Mill. So today, we're going to be talking about, is there still a civilization or a society that we can jump to where people are obeying the laws? And if you're wondering why we're covering this, if you check out our first video, we go into a major event that took place that upended our lives. So we are looking for a society that is accessible, affordable, and livable, and dare we say, enjoyable. So before we get into that, I'm going to give you a little bit of background as to why we're looking to leave the United States. I was raised in the military. Both of my parents were military and worked for the service. And to make a long story short, they were not good people. Okay, they were very abusive, very controlling. They didn't seem to think the law applied to them. So I found out later some other things I'm not going to go into, but it was not a great environment to grow up in. And I am thankful for it because it taught me how not to be. And I did have the influence of other families and people, so that was good. And most of my upbringing was from other people because they were working all the time. So that was another boon. But I've lived all over the world as well. So I've had a little bit of experience with other cultures, especially Asiatic cultures, and I love them. Their mothers were very good to me. So I actually have a heart for, other countries and for cultures that are kind and caring and supportive of their children. Just to give you a little background as to why I'm no longer in contact with my family, which is a reason why I'm looking to move, is because I went through a divorce where my parents actually sided with my abusive ex-husband. Despite the fact that he was a con man and nothing about him was real. When I went through that, rather than experience any sort of justice, I was put into a protection program and had to go into hiding. And I've been in hiding for a number of years. The way that we handle domestic violence and intimate partner violence and theft and fraud in this country, at least in my experience, is they hide the victim and the person doing it's just walking around free as a jay. And they go on to do serial crimes against other people. And I was one of those people. And so I've had a lot of, according to my physician tells me, experience with the underbelly of society because of the criminality that I was raised with. Now, luckily, I went to therapy. I got a lot of help. I spent a lot of time doing introspective work, and that allowed me to attract better people. However, we still live in a society and a civilization that allows people like my parents and like my ex-husband to walk around free, even though they are dangerous criminals. So that said, Jonathan has his own experience in addition to the video that we published prior. I encourage you to check that out because it goes into detail on the most recent criminal activity that transpired. So is there anything you would like to add to that, Jonathan?
Well, I'll just give you a little bit of background on me. I'm a boomer. You probably guessed that. I was born in a small town. Well, it's kind of a medium-sized town in Arkansas. I think at the time it was 1,200 people, but it was still considered a medium-sized town. It's where the county had the courthouse, that sort of thing. Typical square, town square, literal town square with the courthouse. My family owned a couple of stores on the town square, which in that type of community meant that your family had money because they could afford to have a business, they could afford to put it in the center of town, and they could afford to keep it open. I did not find out until things fell apart that the store was not owned by my father, as my mother and my brothers and I were told. It was owned by his father. He was essentially a free employee. My grandfather, owned a good chunk of the town, including the store, including land, and somewhere around 150 houses. So if you think of this in today's terms, he was a millionaire. And we were, if there were food stamps at the time, we'd have been on food stamps. It is a family mystery why this kind of dynamic occurred, but I'm not the only person. Look up Dickens. It wasn't that bad, but it's strange to look back on as an adult and think, why would you do this to your own family?
You're in an upper middle class family. We both were. And why do that to your children? It doesn't make any sense to either of us.
Yeah. So because of that, my mother, and again, we are talking now the end of the 1950s in small town America, my mother took the astonishing step of filing for divorce, which was not only not common, it was practically unheard of, filing for divorce, getting it for cause, receiving a small amount of money from the sale of the house, the family home, and a small child support payment. Today it would be like $150 a month for both of her minor children. So we moved to the capital, Little Rock, and she, God bless her, she went back to college, got a nursing degree, and worked as a nurse for the next 30-some years. And my brother, one brother was old enough to go get his own job. My other brother and I went through school in that area, and we both had jobs when we were in school. I was a paper boy. I could do mow yards, things like that.
Yeah, we both basically worked full time as kids because we had to support ourselves on some level.
And it worked. Mm-hmm. My mother worked, I worked, both brothers worked, and we contributed to the family, and we had a house, we had a place to sleep. I rarely went hungry. If it happened at all, it was because my mother got home too late to make us anything to eat. And it didn't happen very often, but the point that I want to make is a family of four could live on probably what was at the time about $1,000.
Yeah. Well, your mother was an LPN, so you can look up how much LPNs make today and how much things are in your area. I use this all the time. My first job that wasn't like babysitting or painting houses or stuff like that I was a certified nursing assistant, and I got my certification in 99 when I was 15 and worked full time doing that. In addition to going to school and running START and getting my degrees. And I was the 4.0, just straight A students, the athlete, the whole thing. We were both high achievers, overachieving people. And I could support myself on that salary back then. I mean, I made between $16 and $20 an hour as a certified nursing assistant, and my rent was $400. Today, that same apartment, I looked it up, is over $1,600, and certified nursing assistants make less or about the same as I made back in 1999. So I look at that and go, how are people making it today? So... Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I also went to college. I actually I have 2 degrees in computer programming and computer science, and I went to work for a few companies in the area that we live in now, and that things were so rapidly changing. I realized they were not moving quickly enough, and their businesses were in danger of going under simply because they couldn't automate fast enough. So I went into business for myself, established a relationship with a small company up in the Seattle area called Microsoft, and I was selling their operating system with the computers that I put together in the late 80s, early 90s. And at that point, that was a real innovation for, I also was able to sell mortgage document preparation software. If you've ever gotten a mortgage, you know it took you an hour and a half to sign the papers. And every one of those papers, probably depending on when you did it, had to be typed out by hand. So it was an absolute no-brainer to put all those forms in a standard format on a computer, enter the data on the terminal, and then hit print, and it prints out the form. And that's what I did for quite a few years.
So you were a reseller, and you also demonstrated it to like executives at Microsoft, like Paul Allen, people like that. And so he was dealing with whales back in the day, back in the 80s, in the computer world.
And I was able to make a living at that. It was innovative, it was edgy, and it was risky. I mean, I could have gone out of business overnight if somebody had come up with another breakthrough that just sort of took the technology that I was selling off the table. Yeah. I'd have been out in the car looking for a job like a lot of other people. It didn't happen. So I was able to continue that for several years.
So what we're finding now is, we mentioned at the beginning of the show, where is society that is accessible, affordable? That's a big one, because the United States, if you're living here, you're feeling it. Our rents are up. Our cost of living in general is up, whether it's gas or food or whatever, it's up. And our income is not up. It hasn't been up in a while. And if you are in the middle of the United States and you're relying on federal minimum wage, you're lucky to be able to live out of your car. And the United States did not used to be this way. We used to have what was called a living wage, even at the lowest levels. And yeah, we struggled, but it wasn't this bad. It wasn't to the point where your full-time job doesn't cover your rent. Here's an example. We live in an area where Costco was founded, and there's a lot of employees working there. And I looked at the overall wages, because it's actually a really great place to work. It's a fantastic company. But I would, even working 2 full-time shifts there, I would not be able to afford our bills. Full-time, 2 shifts. That's 16-hour days. That's madness. And a lot of Gen Zers are dealing with this too, and younger millennials, because they enter the market with all of these degrees and certifications and these crazy student loans, because we're required to get them for a lot of different jobs out on the market, and we can't afford to live, let alone pay off our loans. So that's a major issue too. So that's the affordable. Livable. If you look at our last video, we talked about the crime that we're seeing. It doesn't seem to be a lot of enforcement, especially in counties and cities like ours, and we're in the greater Seattle area. So, and another thing is, we're looking for a place that, dare we say, is enjoyable. And so we actually did a little bit of research, and we're going to be sharing what we found today. We made a list of a few experimenters and their social laboratories, as we call them. They're all expats with varying lifestyles. They all are traveling and living in different countries. Some of the expats are fixed, like they bought property or a farm and they're working the land, or they're more mobile and they're jumping from country to country as they like. So most importantly, though, they're from all different ages, and therefore they represent generations across the board. So some are boomers, some are millennials, some are Gen Xers. And we find that this is proof that the new global takeover of our economy is affecting everyone, especially people in the West. So the first couple we'd like to talk about, would you like to?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I should say, we didn't start out with a list. We just went on YouTube and looked at hundreds of hours of topics. And they're Amelia and JP. They're YouTubers, bloggers, expats, world travelers. I mean,
They're impressive.
They're impressive. I admire them for their stamina, because they have been in, I've lost track of the number of places that they've lived. And it's not like every day they'll end up in they'll go to a community, they'll live there for several months to
or years.
And then they'll just pick up and move to another community, sometimes because of the conditions that they moved to the community for changed. Other times, maybe the healthcare is better in another area, because they're kind of getting into the boomer field too.
But they're Gen Xers. They're from Denver, Colorado. They were fixed in Ecuador, but now they're more mobile because they're looking at their options. There's been some interesting developments in Ecuador, and so they're just expanding their purview. So you want to explain what brought them to this decision
Well,
to move out?
based on what we hear, what they tell us, they had a life-changing health scare.
Yeah, JP actually had a severe spinal issue, and he was only 43 when this happened. And he had a lot of emergency surgeries, and it cost them nearly $1 million, which on top of their student loans and everything else, just decimated them financially, and it shouldn't have.
Yeah. So, just as an aside, I've had something like this happen too. It causes you to reevaluate your life.
Yeah.
It should cause you to reevaluate your life, because if your life style or, process, whatever you want to call it, leads you to something like this, you need to take note. And if you can change, if there are things that might have contributed to it, you need to change those. You also need to change to your new situation, because after you go through surgery like this, you're going to have permanent changes.
Yeah.
They decided to move to Ecuador.
Well, first they moved to Mexico, and then they moved to Ecuador.
Yeah.
Because Mexico was having a lot of issues with American visas and things like that. So they're really great to follow because they'll show you how things can change as well, and then how to roll with those changes. And my favorite thing is when they talk about each time they moved, they talk about how much stuff that they accumulated and how they're trying to accumulate less and less stuff with each move. Because as Americans, we're programmed to buy things. And so now that they're touring, I know, different parts of Europe and places like that, they're a little lighter, and they talk about how to pack and things like that, which is very helpful.
And how to ship things country to country and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, I am a stuff magnet. It just comes flying out of nowhere and sticks to me. I can't explain it.
He's a hoarder and I'm an organizer. And so it's a little bit of contention with our living situation, because I'm super organized and I like a clean space, and he likes to collect things. And so that's on a side. But
it's enlightening, because these folks have moved so many times. I've lost count. And you look at where they're living, and they have dishes, and they have appliances, and they have clothing, and they
look great.
They look great. Everything looks like a full, what we would consider to be a lifestyle here in North America.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because other places where you go to rent, there are literally dishes in the cupboard.
Especially Southeast Asia.
Sheets and pillows on the bed. There's a TV in the living room, and it's completely set up, perfectly clean, and you just move in and start living there.
Yeah.
In our country, you basically have to sometimes you have to buy the appliances when you move in. And I know there are other countries where that is the case, but again, we're looking for some
Germany,
place.
you have to bring in a kitchen.
Yeah. Build out a room as a kitchen. What we're looking for is the opposite of that. We want to move in and start living there immediately with as little extraneous, purchasing and moving and getting rid of an old appliance.
And that's Amelia and JP. They found a way to simplify their lifestyle, but still live at a high standard. And so if you're looking for that, like right now, they just did a video on Dijon, France. Surprisingly affordable, absolutely beautiful. I mean, it wasn't as cheap as Albania, which is another country that they covered, which was excellent. But they cover everything, and they're really great at traveling light, which is what we like. But they began sharing their unconventional life in 2018, and they encourage others to live internationally and outside that conventional norm. So if that's what you're looking for, we highly recommend them. They have a very active YouTube presence. They share not just information, but a lot of joy and laughter. I mean, we love their lives. They also have excellent resources and packages that you can buy and classes that you can take. But their mission is to demonstrate possibilities of life beyond the traditional boundaries that we've experienced as North Americans. So they're great to follow. Is there anything you want to add about Amelia JP or?
No, I think that they're just hands down probably the premier resource for people, particularly in
our
my
demographic.
age group. Yeah, in our demographic, they would be the folks because they have stuff. They're not just throwing stuff in a backpack and getting on a plane. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're very Virgo, which in astrology, Virgos are the bureaucrats. They are the list makers and I love my spreadsheets, things like that. So we really appreciate how organized they are. And my house looks like Marie Kondo went through here. So the fact that they're so organized and they make lists, I mean, it drives him nuts, but whatever. Uh, I like an organized team. So I have all of their links in the description, so definitely follow them if you want to find out more and what resources that they have available if you're looking to move to another country out of North America. Now, the second one we got, now he's fun. His name is William Taudien, and he's also in the description. He also goes by the Swedish Sheep, and he's very mobile. And I think he is a millennial. That's what I got from his channel. He's a younger millennial, and his whole theme is we travel not to escape life, but for life to not escape us. So he's moving around a lot, and he's got a lot of energy. He's currently touring Vietnam, and he's showing off like high-end apartments, and they're only like $200 to $300 a month, which is insane. And he pays around $1.25, not 125, $1.25 for a full meal. And this guy's built like a bodybuilder, so it's amazingly affordable. The places that he's looking for. And his videos, they're all about adventures and traveling and fitness, and you can learn about new travel destinations and how to get in shape and be healthy and go on fun adventures. And we kind of call them, I have a name for guys like this, I call them incoming bogeys. They're like really, really fun guys that are very health conscious and how do I say this? They're not afraid of trying new things and just going outside the bounds, like the scuba diving and the rock climbing and things like that. So if you have an extremely active lifestyle and you like to be very healthy and you're not really looking to settle down right away, he's your guy. And especially if you're on a budget and you're a millennial or a Gen Zer and maybe you're a digital nomad or something like that and you're looking for cheaper places to live, he does great tours of various properties. So his dream is just to make videos documenting all of this. So supporting him supports that. And I think his final dream is to get a sailboat and sail around the Caribbean with a girl. So he's not looking to settle down anytime soon. He did have a little bit of a health scare in Mexico, which was concerning. So we hope he's doing better. But he doesn't look like he's going to be settling down anytime soon because he's got that incoming bogey energy, right? Is there anything you want to add about William's videos?
William is probably who every 18 to 24-year-old boy in America wants to be.
Oh, yeah, hands down. Yeah, he's like a superhero for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He, does things like gets up on top of the awning above the swimming pool and does a triple backflip into the pool.
And I think I looked him up, and his father's a diver too.
Yeah,
it's like he comes from a really athletic family. Like mom like skis and dad dives and
yeah, and he just does these things. It's natural for him. He's not stunting. That's just who
that's his
he
personality.
is.
And if you see the videos where he visits his family, they're like that too. I'm an ultra marathon runner and weightlifter. We both weightlift. We're both very active. We like to go on hikes and things like that. So we follow him for the adventure portion of things.
But he's still out there making a living, just as near as we can tell, the vlogging, and he may do some consulting. He said, I think recently, that he's available for consulting if you want to know.
Well, and he's doing a fitness channel too and diet because, yeah.
If you want to look like him, which is like a perfect,
like an
perfect
Olympian.
blonde bodybuilder, that would be the place to start.
Yeah. So the next group we want to talk about is Joe and Lisa, and they have a channel called Jolie Farms, and it's JOLI Farms, and they're in Ecuador, and they're boomers.
Yep. I will start by saying that recently Joe passed away. It seemed to be quite sudden. We watched pretty much all of their videos, and he was a little bit absent in a couple of videos, and he looked a little tired in a couple of others, but apparently he had a defect in his heart, and it collapsed, and he passed away. But his wife is still working the farm. It doesn't look like she has any plans to leave, and they had bought a farm. They have employees. They have a business, and it would be probably her decision to stay there. And
she said in the last video she was planning on continuing the channel, but grief is different. So
we'll know as things go forward. But you know, that aside, they are, again, an older couple. They moved there in retirement. They moved to Ecuador in retirement so that they could, they were looking for soil. They were looking for an environment where they could hire workers and treat them fairly. And they were just looking for things to slow down administratively so they could focus on things agriculturally. They're
expats. They're from Texas. They actually, I believe, had a farm in Texas, and they started an organic farm in Ecuador because they wanted to carry it on. So their channel is all about organic farming. It's about aquaponics, hydroponics, things like that. They also provide a lot of information about moving to Ecuador and their experiences living there. One of my favorite things that Joe talked about was how well he was treated by the locals for being a senior. Like, they let him go to the front of the line in the bank, for example. The way that they treat the senior citizens in Ecuador is it's like having a badge of honor, unlike in America, where it's like, you know, just die and give me your money is kind of our experience. It's horrifying. So they talk about how wonderful the people are to boomers specifically, and I really like that. They also have an amazing resource list. So if you're looking to build, especially in Vilcabamba, Ecuador, which is where their farm is, they have a huge list of who you can trust as far as real estate agents and construction workers and, medical professionals and things like that. So that's really great. And we hope that they continue the channel. And if you do choose to follow them, all of their links are in the description. We hope that you are able to support Lisa in her moving forward. She also has beautiful recipes and things like that that are available. She makes pies and lovely things like that. And so they're a beautiful farm couple, and they're just they're a joy to watch. And yeah, we're sending lots of love to Lisa right now too.
Yeah.
So the next couple that we would like to talk about is Kate and Gustav, and all of their links are in the description, and it's K8 and Gustav, and they are either young millennials or Gen Zers. So they're traveling, they're very mobile, and unlike the boomers of Jolie Farms, they have an apartment in Thailand, and they venture out from their apartment. So they're not like William Taudien, the Swedish Sheep, who just jumps from place to place. They actually do have a secure base from which they operate from. And Kate is from the United States, and Gustav is from South Africa. And they're married expats, and their main area is Bangkok, but they do travel all over the world. And they met as teachers in Bangkok, and they bonded over shared passions. So they're an adorable couple. We love following them. They've been exploring Southeast Asia via motorbike and jungle treks since 2021. And their one on Vietnam is really cool. Their adventures are fun to follow, and the editing on the videos is excellent. So they actually celebrated their wedding in Thailand, and that was March of 2023, which was really exciting. And their YouTube channel, it features a lot of activity like William Taudien's, a lot of hiking, motorbike adventures, tons of beautiful landscapes. And they also use the drone like William Taudien does. So you get to see the beauty of Southeast Asia and beyond. Their main goals are they inspire a lot of travel. They share really special, cute moments together. They're just adorable. And they make us laugh, so we really enjoy watching them. We're really surprised they don't have more subscribers, so we highly recommend you just watch their channel for fun, even if you don't plan on moving out of the country. But they're very engaging, and you can subscribe for weekly videos. I believe they're every Sunday. And just if you're looking for outdoor experiences, a lot of unique experiences, they're the couple to follow. And is there anything you want to add about Kate and Gustav? And
the joy coming off this couple is, again, palpable. They are fun to watch having fun.
Yeah, they are.
And Gustav, I wish that I was Gustav's friend, just like everybody that subscribes to their channel. The joy that this man has in his life and his wife and his travels is palpable, and they share it.
They do.
They really share it. They're on their motorcycle. They're filming on their motorcycles with a drone.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's hard for us to negotiate traffic, and they're on a motorcycle in a muddy road in Vietnam managing their drones. So they're skilled, and they're tremendous fun. It's encouraging just to see them do what they do so effortlessly, and they do a lot of informational segments as well. So if you ever wanted to do a motorcycle trip in Vietnam, this would be the channel to look into.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So if you're younger or you're in really great shape like Jonathan and you want to, go on adventures, we highly recommend their channel. It's Kate and Gustav and it's in the description. So you want to tell them about the next person that we recommend.
David Martinez is at Life with David. David is a millennial, Sagittarian, millennial wanderer concerned about his steps for the day.
I call him a Sagittarian. I don't know if he is one, but he has the personality of one. So again, that's my astrology creeping in a little bit.
And the steps for the day, he does mention quite often. I'm
very healthy.
I'm going to walk over here, and I think that will make my steps for the day. And I'm sure he's got something clipped to his belt, and I understand that. I've had some health crisis in my life, and I know you better stay fit.
Yeah. So he's either an older millennial or a young looking Gen Xer, but I think he's around my age and probably, late 30s, early 40s, but he could be younger.
Yeah. When we came across him, he was in Medellin, Colombia, and he did a lot of, again, walking around in the neighborhoods. And it was a revelation for me because all the information that I'd heard about Colombia was
crime.
Don't go there. Great coffee. Other than that, stay away.
Cartels.
And it turns out, like a lot of things that aren't covered, and when they're not critical, things have changed. There's a new political party in power, and they're cracking down on crime, and the gangs have abated because once the punishment starts, they move somewhere else. There's still crime, just like any city and any big area in the world, but it's not like it used to be. And this guy proves it by walking up and down the street all times of the day and night, just, walking down an alley saying, oh, look at this, look what somebody did here. Oh, walking up to a stranger on the street. Can you tell me how to get to this place, that place? Or have you been to that restaurant down on the corner there? Is that any good?
Yeah. And the reason I call him a Sagittarian is he's really truthful. Like he'll just say stuff out loud to people's faces. Like, oh, you just did that and that was wrong. And it's nice. It's kind of it's a breath of fresh air. But he moved to basically improve his health. So he goes into diet and fitness. He goes into food culture. He loves old cars. So he takes lots of fun videos and photos of old cars. He enjoys upcycled bars, things like that. He was in Budapest for about 3 weeks ago, and then now he's in Krakow, Poland. And so he's doing a European tour right now. And it's edited by Nati, his current girlfriend. And he complained about Mexico making him fat, but it was worth it for his Poland adventures. And so if you're a foodie that just basically wants to work out and diet, then he's your guy in balancing the health and the lifestyle piece. And, I think his motto is he's always trying to follow a path that leads to less regrets. So that's a pretty good motto for life. And my favorite topics that he covers are crime and dating because those are important. And he handles liars too. Like he asked how long a trip was going to take and she said 2 hours and it was 4. And this was in Krakow. And he just called her out on camera. It was crazy. So if you want someone who's brutally honest and who knows where all the good food is, but in addition is health conscious and conscious of his environment, surroundings, crime, dating life, things like that, David Martinez is your guy, and that's Life with David, and I have all of his links in the description as well. So our next guy is really interesting. His name is Tommy, and he has the channel Sabbatical, and he is a millennial and vlogger from New York City. And he visits the most dangerous areas, communities, and he eats really weird food. He kind of reminds me of like Anthony Bourdain meets Mariana Van Zeller. That's kind of how I would describe his channel a little bit. He has no fear. Okay, so if your karma is really, really well paid off and you travel light, this is the guy to follow. Otherwise, I'd follow him anyway because it's really entertaining content. So he goes into war zones. He talks to gangs and gang members. He goes over international conflicts like the current war in Israel right now. He does crimes, arrests, no fear, and he's very, very mobile. So he's also a polyglot, and he connects to different locals through languages. I believe he claims to be fully
fluent
in about 10 languages, but he's able to pick up languages on the scene, especially during this Africa tour. That was really interesting to see. And he has a really great historical understanding and context of every area he visits. So he's not just walking downtown, he's telling you the whole history of the area, what it's like now, what it was like then, how it formed, what you can expect as far as demographics, crime, etc. And he's currently in Washington, D.C., and he's filming drifters, gang culture, the D.C. rap and music culture, lots of illegal sports and that are ending in gunfire. And so if you're looking for an entertaining channel, this is your guy. And if you are really, really bored and you don't have a lot of karma to pay off and you want to live this lifestyle, then he's definitely a good inspirations point.
Yeah, he's the incoming bogey thing that was mentioned. That's not him. He's like incoming, very calm guy who walks up to someone who just finished, firing a shotgun and says, "What caliber is that?" And he just does it with complete.
Or people like digging a grave.
Yeah. He just walks up and starts talking to people in their language. And
while they're digging a grave for a dead body. And he goes, "Oh, can I help?" And then he goes and buys liquor and he hangs out and they dig the grave. Yeah. And this was just
and then they take him home and have a meal and he learns, from their parents and such. And I look at this and I think about my own life and people that I've known, and I'm thinking, I'd have been in that grave, if I walked up to people in that location.
Our karma's not that good.
Language or not, and this guy has done this, and I've lost track of how many countries, how many conflicts, how many strangers he's walked up to and just started talking to them because he picks up the language
like that
magically.
He's a polyglot.
Almost. Yeah, he just understands it, and he starts talking to them in their own language, and they think, wow, this guy's talking to me in my own language. So that's probably the secret to his survival because he's still walking around. Now, DC may be a challenge because DC right now is, it's tight. It's tense.
Yeah. So all of it's at Sabbatical, and all of his links are also in the description. So our next one is one of my new favorites, okay? And it's Carrie Patsalis, and she's all over social media, but we follow her on YouTube as well. And she's from Britain. She's a traveler. I believe she's a Gen X. She is a digital production company owner and a twin mom. And her travel extent is diverse locations from like Bolivia to Bangladesh to Mongolia to Morocco. And she manages her digital production company and travels extensively, especially during the school holidays, because she's got the twins. And her twins, she calls her baggage handlers. And what brought us to her door was she's creating content in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. And she's going there as a light-haired, light-skinned, light-eyed woman and talking about improving women's and girls' lives and challenging cultural, religious, and conflict conditions with men in their huts.
Members of the Taliban.
I don't know if they're members of the Taliban, but she's going around in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, and they're treating her very well. That was the shocking thing for me.
Very respectfully, very respectful. A lot of courtesy. Would you like to join us for a meal? Here's some tea.
One guy invited to host her overnight and kill a goat in her honor. I mean, just some of the best hospitality we've ever seen. And it's in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. So that was cool. Just for that, she's worth following. But she's all over the place when it comes to what she covers. And she is sunshine wherever she goes. There's just something about her personality that makes everybody smile, including us while we're watching her. So she actually just returned from Afghanistan and released a video in London, and she's covering British Afghan fashion just after returning from Afghanistan and jewelry and things like that. And she really gets into the details, like when she was showing the costumes. It's a colorful, elaborate, intricate work. She talks to the person who's doing it, how long they've been in business. There was one of the dresses and it had like hundreds of little bells and mirrors on it. And she shows you, what it looks like and what it's used for. And, oh, this is for a wedding and this is for Eid and this is for, this and that. And she also has a lot of ties with Pakistan. And so that's been really neat to see. And so everything from just going out and buying yummy mangoes to talking to various members of culture and society. She's just a joy to watch. And she's also very very kind and grateful and hospitable. And she'll eat anything too. It's pretty amazing what she can eat. A lot of things that would blow most of our heads off spice-wise. So she's brave. She also volunteers at an outlier school for girls in northern Pakistan, which is really neat to find out about. And she really promotes, girls' education and things like that, which I'm a big supporter of. I have a master's in teaching, and so I have a huge, huge heart for young girls, especially girls that are undergoing abuse like I did growing up and in my first marriage. So I believe she joined YouTube December of 2021, so she's relatively new. Her prior engagement was on Instagram, and she covered art and fashion and food and culture and religion and education there before turning into a more full-time vlogger on YouTube. But you could subscribe to her. All of her links are in the description. She does travel blogs. She does offbeat location tours. She covers a lot of hidden gems and places that people might miss. So she's really great for that. But she's just delightful. She's gracious. She has a sense of love and respect for all cultures, and that respect is returned.
And that's for us, that is really the inspiring part, is that she approaches a completely different culture with complete respect, and she receives complete respect.
Yeah. It's really beautiful to see. So again, it's Carrie Patsalas, and all of her links are in the description. So we highly recommend following her as well. And we're going to get to our last person, and he was going to be our main guy before someone destroyed Jonathan's entire retirement. And that's in the previous video. That was when a criminal broke into Jonathan's house and destroyed everything and left us with hundreds, if not
hundreds of thousands of dollars in
damage. And that's why we're having to upend our entire lives now. So, but this was our main guy when we still had an income. So that said, this is Andrew Henderson. He owns a company called Nomad Capitalist. He's a millennial from America, and he doesn't even like U.S. airports. That's how against the United States he is, because this, again, is a man of considerable wealth and intelligence, and he appears to come from an upper-class family. And his overall motto is, go where you're treated best. So a high-end lifestyle, financial investor and planner. $1 million in capital is the minimum for his services. I know he offers other services as well. And we actually highly recommend his book. The link is in the description for his book as well. If you can't afford his services, there are other resources that you can purchase from him. And it's worth following his channel, if only for the insights that he provides as a high income, high earning, highly successful digital nomad and capitalist. So is there anything you want to talk a little bit more about, like why we liked him, why we're following him, why we appreciate his content?
Well, yeah, he is, obviously he looks for the high earning, high net wealth entrepreneur, or, it doesn't matter.
Because that's who he is.
If you earned it or inherited it, if you have a lot of money, this is a very sort of toxic and dangerous time, both to have the money and try to preserve it, and also, what if you're known that you have a lot of money, and where are you going to live that you're going to feel safe? So it's not just protecting the money, it's also protecting the heirs.
Well, and we completely understand why he doesn't like to come through the United States. For instance, right now, we're in one of the highest income per capita areas in the US. We're in Microsoft territory. So we got a lot of millionaires and billionaires that live here, including the Gates family. So Jeff Bezos started here, things like that. And so what we appreciate about his channel is he goes into how crime is negatively affected even the top echelon of the country. And it's so bad here that if you go on Nextdoor, we literally have visa crimes going on. And visa crimes are people coming in from other countries with a temporary visa with the explicit goal to rob rich people, to break into their houses, get into their safes,
Jewelry,
steal their Teslas. And they can do it wholesale here because we live in an area where there's high crime and little enforcement. And if you saw our previous video, you're already aware of that. So and he also interviews other digital nomads and professionals that have gone through crime-related events. Like there was one guy that went into his story about having a bomb squad come out to his house because someone used his online information to report him, and nothing was done to that person. That brought the entire city SWAT team to this poor guy's door. So stuff like that. And so we really appreciate his insights there. But he started off as a very successful entrepreneur, and he faces a lot of high taxes due to international living. So if you are a high come earner, whether you're a millennial or digital nomad, or you're a boomer and you manage to hold on to your money, he's your guy. He's amazing at helping you preserve your money and have the best lifestyle for you and your family, and the safest. He also has a team, and they've traveled to over 100 countries, and they gather extensive firsthand knowledge for you. He has an extensive professional network, including attorneys, accountants, real estate agents, and other global experts. He offers citizenship and resident strategies, legal compliance, and tax reduction techniques, which is really great for boomers and millennials, etc., that are looking for Gen Xers to preserve their income and or their businesses. And he's a very authoritative resource. So he authored a best-selling book on global citizenship and redefining freedom. And it's available in 5 languages. It's got over 1,700 5-star reviews. It's on Audible. And it's also on paperback and online. And I included the link in the description for that. So even if you're not a millionaire, you can buy his book and get some great ideas on how to allocate your finances, figure out visa requirements, things like that, residency. But he promotes freedom from high tax, high regulation policies for entrepreneurs and investors. So again, we would have gone to him if we hadn't faced the hundreds of thousands of dollars in crime. Then Jonathan's thing, and I went through my own story with my family. I owned jewelry stores that they looted. So that's a whole other thing. But that's America. And criminals are allowed to get away with those things here. And that's why he doesn't live here. He doesn't even go through the airport. So we really appreciate him. His links are in the description. Highly recommend you follow him. And, just as a side, this is just a bonus person that we follow. His name is Peter Santanello, and he is wonderful. If you're interested in staying here and getting the real deal from the locals and what's happening in the United States, we're not choosing to live in America after watching his videos and going through our own experiences. You'll need a very supportive family who's willing to put criminals down to live here, because we don't have the enforcement necessary to take care of criminals where we currently live. The police aren't doing much to protect us here anymore. So have you considered this type of move out of the country? And have you planned out your next 10 years? Are these things that you're thinking about, or are you just trying to get by every day? If you have started looking into other countries, how far did you get? We are genuinely curious. And do you follow other expats like we do? If so, we would really appreciate if you send us your favorites list. Or you can leave it in the comments. You can tag people that you follow in the comments as well. We'd appreciate that. Our email is theboomermill@gmail.com if you want to email us. We also have our website where you can contact us there. And is there anything you want to add, Jonathan?
Well, if you have any topics that you'd like to see us cover, because this is a pretty broad area, we could spend a lot of time covering niche areas, but we'd like to know what you want to cover, and we'd like to probably take a look at that as well, because this is something that is going to affect you. If you're a millennial, you're going to be a boomer, and if you're going to be a boomer, you better be a good boomer. So you
only have so much time left.
Yeah. So we're trying to cover those bases, because somewhere between millennial and boomer, everybody falls basically.
Not Gen Xers, yeah. So they're dealing, and that was Amelia and JP that we did at the beginning there. So we'd love to hear your comments. Where have you traveled? Where do you recommend? Is there a cost of living that you think is better than the places that we covered? We'd love to also know about, are there similar experiences happening in your communities and towns? We also encourage not only people from North America, but worldwide to share their experiences and their cultures and what they appreciate about their environments, what maybe they don't appreciate. But yeah, please tune in. We are here every other Thursday. Our next show is July 11th. And we just love being here. And we really appreciated all the support that we got in our first video, because we have over 4,000 views now, and across the shorts and the video, and it was just astonishing that you responded that way. So we really appreciate the support, and we encourage you to to continue to follow us.
And let us know.
Yeah, please. So, without ado, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on July 11th at 5 o'clock Pacific. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.